Well, if someone was asking me how the family business started, I guess, and if they had the time and the inclination to listen to the rather lengthy history, I would start out by telling them that firefighting in America really was a very disjointed uh, undertaking. If you go back far enough in the Revolutionary War years, firefighting was done strictly by neighbors who would find buckets and throw water on a fire. That evolved into bucket brigades where people would own a couple of buckets in their house, and then if there was the call for fire, people would throw their buckets out on the street. At least that's the legend, the urban legend, and how I was told it manifested itself into these buckets would then have symbols on them that were related to whether or not the building in question was properly insured. The old hand-in-hand insurance company and others, they would put insurance marks on the buckets. And as the story goes, if that insurance mark did not appear in the bucket, the fire service wouldn't bother to put that fire out. So it was a very fractious kind of a political entity. Our involvement, the Cairns family, at the time, and this is in the early 1800s, was involved in making tunics, badges, identification shields. I remember a friend of mine when I was down in Baltimore asking me if I would go to an antique store because he had run into a guy that had a product that he wanted me to see, and it turned out to be a Civil War wool jacket with buttons, and on the back it said Cairns and Brother in New York. So our involvement in the fire service came about. The Cairns brothers made very ornate front pieces, what we now call a front piece, which is an identification shield for engine, truck, rescue, what have you. And when I say ornate, we're talking about hand-sewn, tall 8-inch front pieces that had a lot of hand stitching. The letters and numbers were individually sewn on. These were works of art. And they married it to the helmet at the time being made by a guy named Henry Gratacap. And Henry Gratacap was a Scotsman who had come over from Scotland, and he possessed a technique by which he could make leather rot resistant, weather resistant, and harden it. And leather having these great shock attenuating properties, this was only enhanced by his process. And the two kind of joined forces, Cairns making front pieces for these helmets. And I guess what happened was that Mr. Gratacap, when he got older, sold his business interest to the Cairns family. And the Cairns family then began its 175-year legacy of building protective fire equipment for firefighters.